Welcome to G Fun Facts Online. Today, we're uncovering a hidden danger that could be lurking in your grocery cart. Think about the sharp, burning pain of a urinary tract infection, or UTI. For decades, we've been told it's about personal hygiene or just bad luck. But what if I told you that for hundreds of thousands of people each year, that agonizing infection didn't start in their own body, but on a farm and traveled to them through their dinner? A growing body of shocking scientific evidence is forging a direct link between contaminated meat and the rising tide of UTIs, including those that are dangerously resistant to antibiotics. We're going to trace the journey of these invisible pathogens from the farm to your fork and into your body, and most importantly, reveal what you can do to protect yourself. At the heart of this story is a familiar bacteria, Escherichia coli, or E. coli. While most E. coli strains live harmlessly in our intestines, a specific group known as extraintestinal pathogenic E. coli, or EXPEC, has the nasty ability to cause infections outside the gut. These are the master criminals behind 80 to 90% of all UTIs. A subset of EXPEC, called uropathogenic E. coli, are particularly well equipped for this job. They have an arsenal of tools, like biological grappling hooks called adhesins, that let them cling to your urinary tract lining, and toxins that damage your cells, all while evading your immune system. For years, the standard explanation was that a UTI happens when your own gut bacteria get into the wrong place. And while that's true, it's not the whole story. The real bombshell is where many of these UTI-causing bacteria are coming from in the first place. A landmark study from George Washington University and Kaiser Permanente dropped a staggering statistic. They estimated that nearly 1 in 5 UTIs in Southern California may be caused by E. coli strains transmitted through contaminated meat. Using advanced genomic modeling, they compared E. coli from UTI patients with E. coli found on retail meat in the same areas and found a direct match. This isn't a one-off finding. It's the culmination of over a decade of research. An earlier study in Flagstaff, Arizona, linked 8% of human UTIs to strains found in local meat. The higher percentage in the California study suggests this problem is far more significant than we ever imagined. This completely reframes UTIs. They aren't just a personal health nuisance. They are a major food safety problem with massive public health consequences. So how does the E. coli from a chicken or a cow end up causing an infection in your bladder? The trail begins on the farm. Industrial farms, where thousands of animals are raised in close quarters, can become breeding grounds for bacteria. Pathogenic E. coli is a natural part of the intestinal life of animals like chickens, turkeys, and cattle. They shed these bacteria in their feces, which contaminates the farm environment. This problem is supercharged by one of the most controversial practices in modern agriculture: the widespread use of antibiotics. For decades, antibiotics have been given to livestock not just to treat sickness, but to prevent it, and, in some cases, to make animals grow faster. This constant, low-level exposure to drugs creates immense selective pressure. It kills off the weak, susceptible bacteria, leaving the strong, antibiotic-resistant strains to survive, multiply, and become the dominant bacteria in the animal's gut and on the farm. The next stop is the processing plant, and it's a gauntlet of contamination. Fecal matter carrying these pathogenic, drug-resistant E. coli can cling to the animal's hides and feathers. The high-speed nature of modern slaughterhouses makes preventing the spread of this bacteria incredibly difficult. During the removal of organs, a process called evisceration, there's a high risk of fecal matter touching the meat. Studies have shown E. coli from a cow's hide transferring to the carcass, and how processing equipment itself becomes a vector, spreading bacteria from one carcass to the next, even with cleaning steps in between. The risk is then amplified when meat from multiple carcasses is combined to make ground meat. If just one of those carcasses was contaminated, the grinding process spreads the bacteria throughout the entire batch. Finally, The meat is packaged and sent to your grocery store. But the risk doesn't end there. Leaky packages can drip contaminated juices onto other groceries. And then, the final and most critical point of exposure, your own kitchen. This is where cross-contamination runs rampant. Using the same cutting board for raw chicken, and then for a salad, using the same knife, or simply not washing your hands thoroughly after handling raw meat, can transfer these dangerous bacteria to foods you'll eat uncooked, or to other surfaces in your kitchen. So the bacteria are now in your house. How do they cause a UTI? The main route is through your own digestive system. When you eat meat contaminated with these pathogenic E. coli, they can set up shop in your gut, often without causing any stomach upset. Your gut becomes a reservoir for these UTI-causing strains. From there, the bacteria can travel from the anus to the urethra. Because of anatomy, women are much more susceptible. Their shorter urethra and its proximity to the anus provides an easier path for bacteria to ascend into the bladder. Once inside, the bacteria's special virulence factors kick in, allowing them to latch on, multiply, and trigger the painful symptoms of a UTI. Now, let's add the most alarming layer to this problem: antibiotic resistance. The very same overuse of antibiotics on farms that helps these bacteria thrive means that the E. coli causing your UTI may be resistant to the common antibiotics your doctor prescribes. When your first-line treatment fails, the infection can worsen, potentially leading to a more serious kidney infection or even sepsis, a life-threatening condition. This is a perfect example of the One Health concept, the idea that the health of humans, animals, and the environment are all interconnected. The effectiveness of our life-saving antibiotics is being eroded, in part, by how we produce our food. The risk isn't shared equally, either. The same Southern California study revealed a shocking socioeconomic disparity. People living in low-income neighborhoods had a 60% higher risk of getting a foodborne UTI compared to those in wealthier areas. Researchers suggest this could be due to lower-quality meat products, like value packs, which were found to have higher E. coli contamination, or poorer storage and hygiene conditions in some retail stores. Your zip code should not determine your risk of getting a drug-resistant infection. This is a critical issue of health equity. So what can be done? This problem is complex, but it's not hopeless. It requires action on multiple fronts. Government bodies like the FDA and USDA need to enforce stricter regulations, closing loopholes that allow for the continued non-therapeutic use of antibiotics in animals. The meat industry has a responsibility to adopt safer practices, from reducing antibiotic use on farms to investing in better sanitation and pathogen reduction technologies at processing plants. There are promising alternatives to antibiotics, like probiotics, prebiotics, and even viruses called bacteriophages that specifically target and kill harmful bacteria. But the most immediate power lies with you, the consumer. Your kitchen is the final line of defense. First, in the grocery store, handle meat packages carefully. Place them in a separate plastic bag to prevent any juices from dripping on other food. Second, and this is the most important part, practice meticulous kitchen hygiene. Wash your hands with soap and water before, during, and after handling raw meat. Use separate cutting boards, plates, and utensils for raw meat, and for ready-to-eat foods like vegetables. Never put cooked food back on a plate that held raw meat. After preparing meat, wash everything it touched, boards, knives, and countertops, with hot soapy water. Third, cook your meat thoroughly. Heat kills E. coli. A food thermometer is the only reliable way to know if meat has reached a safe internal temperature. And finally, store raw meat on the bottom shelf of your fridge, so it can't drip onto anything below it. Of course, all the standard UTI prevention advice still applies. Stay hydrated to flush your system, practice good personal hygiene, and urinate after sexual activity. The discovery that our food supply is a major source of UTIs is a wake-up call. It forces us to look beyond a simple infection and see the vast, interconnected system of modern agriculture, food processing, and public health. This hidden threat is serious, but it is not insurmountable. By understanding the journey of these pathogens, and by taking deliberate, careful steps in our own kitchens, we can dramatically reduce our personal risk and, as informed consumers, drive the demand for a safer, healthier food supply for everyone. Thank you for listening to Fun Facts Online.